medical mystery. It's about a woman who spent most of her life struggling to figure out why she couldn't fit in, unaware that she was living with a condition doctors failed to diagnose. Turns out that happens a lot more often than you think. And Jesse Palmer's here with more on this story we first saw in the Wall Street Journal. Hey, Jesse.
Thanks, George. For 21 years, Lydia Wayman knew she was different, but doctors and psychologists couldn't explain why. Then, during her senior year in college, a friend noticed something unusual about Lydia that helped her finally get the answers she needed. For 27-year-old Lydia Wayman, life has been a series of hard-won battles since childhood.
I got overwhelmed around other kids a lot. I was frustrated a lot too, because food and tags and clothes and crowds and fireworks, so many things were hard, but I really wasn't able to communicate it when I was really little, so I just cried.
She would just refuse to eat. I would mention it to the pediatrician and he would say, you know, it's not unusual. They can be very picky eaters.
Doctors eventually put her on medication for anxiety and depression.
I've heard everything from she's stubborn, she's a manipulator, personality disorder.
But what Lydia's doctors missed and her family didn't know, she was on the autism spectrum. While we don't yet know the number of adults that go undiagnosed, today 1 in 68 children are on the autism spectrum. It's the fastest growing developmental disorder in the U.S. The one area where Lydia always excelled was academics, but teachers said she was lazy.
And she just seemed incapable of keeping things organized.
It wasn't until Lydia was 21 and a senior in college that a friend, recognizing the symptoms, suggested she be evaluated for autism. Shortly after, Lydia was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
It's easy if you get a diagnosis like that to poor me, wallow. I'm the same person I always was.
So why did it take so long for Lydia to be diagnosed?
Years ago, the prevalence wasn't as great, and I think that in some cases there wasn't as much awareness, and so clinicians may not have been able to diagnose as easily.
And in that blog that Lydia writes for Autism Speaks, she says of her experience, while autism does mean that I am absorbed within myself, that doesn't mean that I don't want you around. If you can come to me, I'd love to let you in. There's a whole world in here. Maybe you should check it out.
Wow. Okay, Jesse, thanks. You see, Dr. Richard Besser is here right now. Let's talk about this a little bit more. This key moment when her friend realized that she was unusually bothered by bright lights. Why was that so important?
Yeah, it's this concept of sensory overload. And let me show you what that's like. Jesse's going to put on these virtual reality headsets and look at some video clips from the group Autism Speaks. And it gives you a sense of what the experience is like for someone who's hypersensitive to sound and to light, where they're all amplified. And they go through their life and have that kind of experience. Now, when you think about autism, there's a spectrum. So there's some people on the higher end where all they may experience is some difficulty with their social interaction. And then people on the other end of that spectrum who are so debilitated that they have trouble talking. But for Lydia, it was that intensity of light that was the clue that she had that hypersensitivity that you'll see.
And your heart went out to her when you were hearing from her mother all these things they thought about her, and here along she was on the spectrum. So how do you know? Is there any way you can be certain?
Yeah, it's hard. It's not like diabetes where you can go in and they do a blood test and tell you this is what you have. You know, doctors will use a checklist. But you can go online. If you're struggling and you're wondering, you can go online and take a quiz and get a sense of the kinds of questions that they're going to ask. So here are 3 of the things that you would need to react to. The first statement: I get extremely upset when the way I like to do things is suddenly changed. The next one: some ordinary textures that do not bother others feel very offensive when they touch my skin. And the third one: it's difficult for me to understand how other people are feeling when we're talking. So, you know, if you take these kind of quizzes or you're concerned, see your doctor and they can sort out whether this applies to you.
And Dr. B, just want to check in with you, Jesse. What was it like, that experience?
It's exactly what Dr. B said. Sensory overload. The light was absolutely piercing. It was as if I had to squint just to look around. The noise was so overwhelming. And I thought when people were looking at me, it was as if they were looking through me or judging me. So I would say more than anything, a real feeling of anxiety, just having gone through that experience. Absolutely,
Yeah, I mean, watching that video can give you that empathy and compassion. It will help us all interact.
I'm sure people are going to have a lot more questions on this. You'll take them all morning on Twitter?
I will.
Great.